Hey guys, welcome back to Rivers Art Draws Mr. Incredible. Uh, we've got the line artwork all taken care of. If you are just coming in on this video, I will post the link for the first part in the description. Right now we're in Photoshop CS5 and starting to figure out how I want the final rendered look for this picture. Just kind of using my airbrush tool, my soft airbrush tool, to put in a halo effect around our guy, so it'll make for an effective starburst later on when we get to the background. And I'm putting in some of the shadows on his face. If you look to the side where my layers are at, you'll see that the way that I like to render is I like to use my flats as kind of a as a masking tool, by taking the layer above the layer that you want to drop your renders onto. You can hit the option button right in between each layer, and it'll kind of drop everything down into that bottom layer. That way, when you're coloring, you don't go outside the lines, so to speak. Now I'm going ahead and starting to put in some highlights on Mr. Incredible's face there. I typically like to start off with the skin first. I don't know why. It's just I think it's because for me, skin is probably the trickiest thing to render, typically on a character. It's usually if you look at someone's skin, the light reflects a lot of different colors, so it tends to have there's a lot of different transparency effects with skin, a lot of different hues in the human body. So I typically start there first. It usually takes me the longest out of rendering out anything is making sure I got the skin correct. For around his nose and his lips, I want a much sharper transition of color. So for example, it's not as soft as it is on his forehead. I want the lighting to be a little bit more dramatic. So for that, I'll use my Wacom tablet or my Wacom pen and click the button on the side so I can pull up all my brushes, and then go to my my hard brush, my solid brush, and that helps give me that nice solid color versus a soft airbrush look. I've discovered, just by coloring over the years, that mixing those that soft brush and hard brush look within a piece can create some really dynamic colors that pop off the page. Now I'm going in with more of a redder, a deeper blush kind of color for around his cheeks, and a little bit more of a light brown kind of color for around his lips. And often what I'll do is I'll take my eraser tool after I put down a solid line, kind of like what I'm doing right here around his neck. Get that kind of figured out for my deep shadow, and then take my eraser tool and kind of fade it out some so it blends in more naturally with everything else. I also find the more and more you can treat your two-dimensional drawing as view it as a three-dimensional object, it'll give you a better sense of lighting and how to color your drawing. For the most part, I mean that's also another big reason why form is very important when you're doing your drawing. So it has a sense of weight to it. Makes it easier to color. Doing a little rim lighting on his nose there and on his forehead. I'm This is usually, the highlights is usually where I'm done when I'm doing the skin. Sometimes I'll go back and add a little bit more shadow if it seems appropriate. Um, but I'm trying to pick the right areas that I think that the light would bounce off the most for the highlights. All right, now I'm gonna go back into his face here and add a little bit more of that kind of pinkish hue, just so he doesn't look like a zombie by the time I'm done with this. Um, and if you'll look to the right where all my layers are, I'm getting quite a few layers that I keep I keep doing the drop down trick with onto my flat layer. The reason I work like this is it's just like, if I ever decide to go back and change something, it's a little easier to go in and change a specific shadow or highlight that I don't like. But I would recommend, and it's something I should listen to myself more with, is I would definitely suggest compressing those down once you're done, once you're confident that that's what you're sticking with, because it does increase your file size quite a bit if you don't do that. I'm gonna go ahead and do his super suit, again using the airbrush tool, figuring out where the light would lay on this massive guy, and this is a pretty tricky part, figuring out how his belly's gonna look. He's quite muscular up top, and he just kind of, guess he kind of let himself go. Must come from all those years of retirement and having kids. So, yeah, getting those those midtones in there, and from this point on, I'm gonna go ahead and build up the lights on his suit, the highlights. Get a slightly brighter hue, and go from there. As I continue working on his suit here, I want to remind you guys that if there's anything that you want to see me work on, if there's I don't know if you want to see more coloring videos, or if you like to just see more of me doing line art in Manga Studio, or line art, and traditionally I can work something out for that. I don't have a camera. I just have my built-in camera on my laptop here, but I'm sure I could figure something out. But yeah, just let me know if you want to see more coloring videos, if you want to see just more line art demonstrations, and if there's any particular character that you want to see me tackle. I'll be glad to take it into consideration for my next few videos here. I absolutely love art. I love drawing. I've been drawing ever since. I mean, you hear it all the time. You hear people say, "Well, I've been drawing ever since I could hold a pencil," and I'm pretty sure I have been. It's it takes up the majority of my time, and I want to share as much of that as I can with you guys. But I just need to know what you want to see. So you can hit me up on the comments down below. You can email me at my omniclipscomics@gmail.com. And you can also check out, I've done a couple of these kind of videos for Omniclips Comics. It's my comic book label that I work on. I'm actually in between a issue right now. I'm working on starting to work on Tyrannosaurus Hex #3, but I won't get into all that right now. You can check out omniclips.com if you want to get a little bit more info about all of that. So yeah, but a little bit a little bit more info about me. I've been you know, like I said, I've been drawing since I knew how to do it. Um, Not particularly well. Like anything it's something that you get better at with time. Um, but I've never stopped. I've never given up. And there's been times where I've wanted to, because it's might not have been the most practical thing to do at the moment, but I like it too much to do that. In fact, since about 2006, I've been doing semi-steady work in the commercial art field, whether it's doing graphic design for websites or manuals, brochures, magazines, circulars, or whether it's doing sign work. I've had a short little stint doing sign work out of town, and um, it's something that I would recommend anyone who wants to do art as a career, that they work in some form of commercial art. You end up having a greater appreciation for the time that it takes to get something done, and working with a deadline, and jumping on something as soon as possible. Um, Definitely help your pedigree as an artist too. Um, so definitely, if you have work, don't be afraid to go after it. Even if it's outside the realm of what you want to do. For me, it always comes back to comic book illustration, and just illustration period. But I've done several drawings. I've done taken several jobs that were way outside the norm of my comfort level. And you always learn a little bit about yourself when you do that. um, I think I'm kind of in a mode right now where I know this is pretty much what I want to do. I'm not as thirsty for just any graphic design position as I once was. Not to say that I won't take it, but I'm just a little bit more cautious about it, because this is this kind of work is what I'd rather be spending the majority of my time with. I mean, work is work, but if you're working in a creative field and you're not able to really exercise your creativity to the full extent, it's kind of a huge waste. You end up finding yourself in a situation where you've worked your 9 to 5, working for some ad agency, or you know um, I don't know, web design company or print design company, and by the time you get home, you don't have a whole lot left in the tank for yourself, creatively wise. Um, so it's something that, again, I would suggest that if you're a graphic designer, or if you're an illustrator, that you try it at least once, um, and then kind of make your decision after that, whether it's right for you or not. You never know. You might surprise yourself. Probably the only other thing that rivals my how much time I spend on my artwork is music and movies. You know, huge huge fan of both. I'm pretty open to almost anything musically, and same goes for movies. Why I always warn people I'm probably not the I don't know if I'm the best person to ask an opinion on either, because I just my tastes are very wide, very accepting of a lot of things. I mean, there's definitely films and music that I'm not a fan of, but I don't know, I just don't pay those things a whole lot of attention, I guess. Um, I don't know. That's the internet culture we live in, where we just like to complain and complain and complain about the crappy music and movies and art and entertainment that's out there, rather than just ignoring it. And I think we'd be far better off if we did more ignoring and less complaining. All right, we are just about there, just about done with Mr. Incredible. I'm gonna throw a few more highlights on his glove, and he's still got his hair and his sash and his logo to work on. I'll get to that. And just using white there for the highlights. Very, for the most part, very simple breakdown of the colors on the glove. It's my base color, my mid-tone, my highlight, and then my super bright highlight, which is the white, which I use sparingly there. Again, making sure I go over it with my eraser tool to kind of fade things out a little bit. You can see by using more of the solid brush for the gloves and a little bit more of the airbrush for his super suit. It's caused some it feels like it's a different fabric. The red portions feel a little bit more fabricy. I don't even know if that's a word, fabricy. Anyway, the gloves look a little bit more slick, and that's also due in part to the shading on the gloves, using the way I use the way I spotted my blacks on the mask and the glove and in those areas. I'm also going to bring to attention again my layers panel. If you look to the right, you can see I've been all the sections that I've been finishing up, I've been collecting those into folders. You can do that by simply hitting selecting the layers and hitting Command G, and it'll automatically pop it into a little folder. It helps keep things a little organized. I'm not the most organized colorist. I don't really get off into naming my layers that much, because it's you got to stop what you're doing and then type the name in of the layer. So I'd rather just do all of the rendering and then plop it into a folder. I can name the folder, hair, mask, skin, whatnot, and just keep it at that until I'm done with everything. And if I feel confident with it at that point, I can compress it all down to one layer. And I think that's going to be it for Mr. Incredible. I'm just going to go ahead and make some bursts of light coming out the background there from that little halo effect that we did earlier, to make it jump out at you a little bit more. I'll post the finished artwork on my Twitter page, where you can follow me. That's at NickRiv, NickRiv. I'll also have it on my Patreon page, if you want to check it out there. It'll be patreon.com/riversart. I'll also have those links in the description if you want to get a closer look at the finished piece of art. Again, thank you for checking out this video. I've hoped that it's been at least a little bit informative, and if not informative, at least entertaining. And if not, there's always next time. Anyhow, I know this has been a kind of a long video. Hopefully they all won't be this lengthy. I think, I think for these videos where I take you through the whole process, they're probably going to be about this long. So again, let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see more of, whether it's just the line art or the coloring steps. Maybe I can break it up a little bit. Anyhow, like, subscribe, and share. Let me know, give me some feedback, and that's it for now. Alright guys, I'll see you on the next video. Peace.